Welcome back to the workshop. Today we have got a Husqvarna. Let's see, this one is a 440. Customer's complaint is that he puts oil in the for the chain and it just runs right on back out again. So we're going to find out exactly what that's going to do. All these chainsaws, of course, leak oil. I don't know, who you are or what brand you have. They all have oil. It's all going to leak on the ground. It's just a matter of when you pour it in, it shouldn't be pouring out. So we're going to go ahead and take this apart, see if we can look it over. The oiler's located in behind the cover here. All these Husqvarnas, when you take them apart, make sure you unlock that first. He's already looks like taking some of this apart. I haven't done that. But make sure that's unlocked first, because if it's not, you're going to pay the dickens to put this cover back on sometimes. The brake on these, this brake, when you collapse that, it shrinks down so much you can't get it to go back over top of your drum. So you don't want to have that happen. Now, what we'll do is take this off here. Let's take the chain off. That's a good start spot anyways. We're just going to look at this and see what we've got in here. Get the chain out of there. Alrighty. Now if we look at this, the oil is supposed to come up and come out of this area here and oil it up, and all your oiler and everything is in behind this. And what it does is it comes into your chain bar, and I've kind of gone over this before, but we'll show you again. There's holes in this bar that allow that oiler to line up with that top groove right there. So if that groove is clear, the oil should come out and get onto the chain and go from there. What it shouldn't do, though, is just run out of this continuously. Now, it looks like this plate is going to be, to take this off to get to the oiler, we're going to have to go ahead, it looks like, and remove the clutch. So we're going to go ahead and get this off of there. That's going to involve going ahead and pulling the plug. And then we'll have to put a block in there to stop it from turning over, because otherwise it's just going to spin the piston over, and we're not going to make much progress on that at all. So we'll go ahead and get this out of here if we can. Oh, I forgot one more. This one's got the third one up front. There we go. Now, like I say, we'll pull the plug, and we're going to get this thing exposed to the point where we'll know where it's going to leak from, and if it's leaking, we'll be able to put it back together. Now, I don't have an actual plug stop for this thing to keep that piston from rolling over, which is what you're going to need to bust this thing loose. So what I do is I have a big soft rope that I stick in there, so it saves it pretty much. And this one is on here. This is going to be a righty-tighty, lefty-loosey. So opposite of, this is backwards thread. So righty-loosey, lefty-tighty. So let me get a little rope, stick it in there, and we'll just pop that one time and get her broke loose. Okay, we've gone ahead. I've stuck my rope down in here. That's a nice soft big rope. I don't know, they do sell metal ones that'll go in there, plastic ones. I've heard the plastic ones sometimes will bust off, and then you have those stuck down into there. The metal ones, I'm sure work good. I don't have one, I don't use it, but I know a lot of mechanics that do. You always stand a chance if you hit this hard enough and it gets a little bit of slack in it, it can bust the top of your piston though, so be careful when you're using that. That kind of always scares me. And then this one here, you just take a small punch and you set it right there in the notch and you pop it one time. I've already done that. So, and then they just spin on off. Keep track of which way all this goes back together. We should be able to pull that off, and then you'll have your little needle bearing here. Be careful of that. Look that over, make sure it's got all the parts and pieces. And we'll just set these off to the side, and then we'll take a little cover under here. This needs to just be pulled off. That'll get us down into our gear. This part here is, let's see if we can clean that up a little bit. It's got a spring. It looks, let me see if I get you in the camera here. It's got a little spring there. That's actually the gear that goes up against your oiler. And the oiler gear is in here. That's looking a little bit worn, but I don't think that would be the reason it's going to leak. It's been hit and abused a bit though by a chain. It's pretty well dumped dead in there. I think get some of this dirt off of here, and let's see, I forget what this is. Screws here. Is that a Phillips? Looks almost like Phillips. Let's see if it is. Okay, and then this whole kit just comes up out of there. We'll clean all that up before we put it back together. So now we can look at this. Yeah, it's still got some teeth. So our oil comes up out of that area there. So we should be able to pull this up out of here. Let's see if everything looks right anyways. That comes up. That's where it seals into the tank. And it's got a lot of trash in here. So we're going to go ahead and clean all that up and make sure that we can see where the oil is leaking from, if that's what it's doing. So I'm going to go ahead and set that back in place. We're going to clean all that up, and then we'll have a good idea where it's leaking at. So we'll be back after the cleanup. Okay, we've got her cleaned up pretty decent looking now. And after we got her all cleaned up, I went and found me another older unit because there's definitely an issue here. The oiler on this is the original one, and I didn't like the looks of it when I first glanced at it. But you can see the teeth in that thing are wore out, something fierce. So I had another older machine, so we'll go ahead, and you can definitely see the difference in the two of those. Now, I don't know as though that's going to mean it's going to not leak anymore, but it's definitely to the point of where it's not going to pump any oil out if it goes much further than that. So we'll go ahead and save them a little bit of money. This is perfectly good oiler, so we'll put that on in there and get rid of the old one for them. And that's going to just set back in. I don't see anything else here that really looks like an alarm. Let's see if we can kind of show you. This thing sits here, it goes into this little groove in the bottom here, the little hole, and then it kind of sits in this spot right here. Okay, we've set this back in place, the oiler, and we should be able to fill this back up with oil and see if we can determine where the leak is actually happening at. So we'll go ahead and fill her up with oil, see where it is from there. Okay, as I go to fill this up with oil, I want to look inside of this oil tank and figure out, make sure there was no issues in there also. And in the bottom of the oil tank here, I found this piece just kind of floating around down in there. So I looked at it, and I don't know how I'm going to be able to pick this up in the camera, but let's see if I can. I don't know if I'm going to be able to show you or not. It doesn't look like it's going to focus on that. Oh, there, a little bit. You see that white light right there? Yeah, that's yeah, you got a flashlight shining up through that hole. That's a straight hole. This piece that's here is actually supposed to sit down into that hole down in there. I don't know if I can shine a light maybe this way, and you can see the little square hole and square piece there. And if you look at the other one I've got here that I just tore apart, you can see that that hole is supposed to be filled with that little square piece. So we'll just set that back in there. It's no wonder it was pouring oil out of there. That's a direct hole that goes right straight from that side of the chainsaw right out that port right there. So yeah, it would be the same as this other pin here, I believe, is the other side of that. But anyway, so we're just going to take this, set it back down in there, line it up, and that should probably take care of this problem. So we're going to fix a couple things for them, but let me go ahead and set this down in, get her lined up, see what we can do. Okay, we've got that back in there. I've gone ahead and taken our little roller bearing, I've investigated that. Looks like it's in still good shape. We've put a little cover on there, put just a little tab of grease on that so that lube it up while I got it apart for them. And we'll spin that on around, and we just need to set the sprocket on there. We'll look that over a little bit. It's got a little bit of wear, but I think it should be all right. So we'll go ahead and set that back on there, and we'll spin this back in. There we go. Now the centrifugal force of this, when it starts up, will hold that in place. The only thing I got to watch out for is I want to make sure that's tight enough that it doesn't spin off if I start it up without any covers on there, because I have had that happen before. So do be aware that if you throttle that thing up and then stop it fairly quickly, it could actually unspin if it's not tight down there enough to keep it there. So other than that, we'll go ahead and get it ready to go and pour some more oil in there and see if she's leaking. But I think that was a pretty obvious problem with it, so we'll get that knocked out, see how she's doing. I think what happened is when somebody went to put that bar back on, let's see if we can demonstrate just a little bit. They went to put the bar on there and they set it in place like this, and when they set it down on there, they actually set it back in there too far or whatever, and it hit that other peg, and when they tightened it down, it just pushed that peg straight on into the reservoir. It doesn't take anything, it's just a pressed in, sealed in piece. So it really could happen pretty easily, but that okay, we've got her all back together. We've looked at it. It don't look like it's losing a bunch of oil or anything. We've got oil showed up. I always put it over a rag. Looks like it's oiling well out here, so that should take care of that. I think that's all we should need. Little 440, that's a little bit different than what we normally run into for an oil leak, but it's got it fixed. We'll get her back to the customer. He should be happy that it's not just pouring oil out of it anymore. So, of course, like I say, all these chainsaws, they all have a certain amount of oil that comes out of them. Just sitting there, they sling the oil up in amongst the chain and all up here. So when you set them on the ground, you're going to get some oil that pops back out of them. So that's just the way it goes with chainsaws. That'll do it. I hope that's helpful. If you have that problem, that'll give you a little something to look at. And we'll catch you on the next video. Please hit that like, subscribe, share it. Let me know what you think about it. We'll catch you on the next project. Thanks a bunch.